Hey everybody, welcome to Race Desert's preview of the 45th annual Tecate Score Baja 1000. My name's Cameron Steele, the leader of the Desert Assassins off-road race team, and we're going to be fielding 3 trucks in the Baja 1000 this year. The number 14, the number 16, both trophy trucks, and then of course Mama Bear or Heidi Best, a championship winning 600 truck from last year. So we're super involved in the Baja. We've been down the peninsula a couple different times already in the last month, not specifically to pre-run, but to do bike trips and just to look and see what the Baja has to offer, because there has been a ton of rain this season. And the first thing you need to know, you got to watch out for the dangers of washouts, whether it's at the top or the bottom of the course. This is especially true earlier in the pre-running because people haven't really been going through certain sections. And speaking of sections, we're going to take you through a few of them, give you some highlights, talk about some great places to spectate, and basically how to have fun at the Baja 1000.
Before we get started on the race course, we should definitely talk about safety. And you can never be safe enough no matter where you're at, but when we're talking about pre-running or going down and looking at parts of the Baja 1000 course, you have to remember the roads are open, and I'm not just talking about the highways. The 2 tracks that the race course goes on, these are roads to people's ranches. The locals do not build roads to nowhere, so when you're on a 2-track road of any kind, you got to expect traffic coming at you. So beware of the locals, beware of the livestock. If you see horse poop or cow poop in the middle of the road, that means there's cows or horses nearby. I mean, you got to use common sense. And I think sometimes people get down there and like, hey, I'm on the marked race course, throttle on, let's go. It's not the way it is. You got to go down, you got to chill, you got to enjoy the people of Mexico and allow them to enjoy us being there. I mean, basically, it's like the Indy 500 going through your front yard for an entire month when we're talking about the pre-running. So go down and be careful. Don't do stupid things. If you think it's a bad idea, generally it is. Think twice, act once, be smart, and I can't tell you enough how important it is to think about your entire surroundings, not just how it affects you, but all the people around you.
For the 45th annual Baja 1000, we're going to be running an entire peninsula run. Sometimes we do loops at the top part of the Baja and the northern part, which is more beat up and definitely more rough, but we're still going to have to run through some of those territories as we head south. Getting started, it seems like we're always doing it in Ensenada, and what a beautiful town. I mean, the giant Mexican flag in the background, the seaport village. I mean, it's really not a village, it's a big city, but it's a lot of fun to hang out there, and the fans are super enthusiastic. One of the toughest parts of the race course is just getting out of town, because you only get to pre-run it the last couple days before the race, and I think people take it far too lightly because there's booby traps, there's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of things that can come at you that people really aren't familiar with, and then you mix in the fact that you haven't pre-run it that much, it's definitely a bit of a crapshoot. Heading out through Ojos Negros, you start to get into the beginning of the beautiful Baja. It's green, and you start getting on these 2-track farm roads and head down into Tres Hermanos, which is an option area where sometimes we run straight down into the rancho, but this time we're going to be turning left and going directly into one of the most dangerous spots, I think, on this entire Baja race course, is this up and down undulation area where Brandon Pjork and Vic Bruckman broke their backs in 2003, both in Class 12 cars. There are some big hidden holes in there, and you really have to be careful. Pre-running is key, but don't go fast just because you think you can, because this isn't even a situation where it's washouts. This is a situation where these are holes where your whole car will fit inside the hole and you can't see it from 15 feet away. As you continue on, you go across road crossing at K77. Sometimes there's small pits and chase vehicles there on this big trip down the peninsula. You won't see as many major pits as you do maybe at the Baja 500 or a loop race. This is an interesting place to spectate, but always be careful on the highway because people are not paying attention, and you don't want to add to that. You don't want to be driving around looking at race cars and trying to figure out where you fit in race car and civilian vehicles, so be real careful. We'll head out into the new twisty section the farmers have set up as we head through Independencia, and not going down the goat trail this year. We're going to be coming out just before that, as we did in 2010, and getting on Highway 3, where it'll be a transfer section at 60 miles an hour. For those of you that don't know, we're always running 60 miles an hour on the highway. It's a safety situation, and it's monitored by SCORE and the ear track system. And we'll run that highway all the way down to the small little village of San Matias, which is just before you break into the Diablo Dry Lake area. You're going to hop off the pavement on the north side, run the wash for a little bit. There's some boulders in here you want to watch out for, and you'll cross Highway 3 and go into the more technical part of San Matias Wash. But not long after that, you're going to hop out of there, and what we're going to do is we're going to run the reverse of the San Felipe 250 for about 70 miles. So what's normally the start of the San Felipe 250, heading north out of town through all the brutal whoops, up towards Three Poles, through Borrego, we're going to be doing it in reverse. So
around the Borrego area, race mile 150, you'll start seeing a lot of pits. Now this is the beginning of really the rough section heading into San Felipe, so it's a bit dodgy how you're going to set up your pit strategy. San Felipe is actually race mile 200, which might be a little too far for some of the teams to have their first pit, but I'll tell you what, it is going to be rough and it is going to be brutal. Score really throwing a curveball at the racers by having us race through this incredibly rough section that normally you wouldn't see them giving to you in a 1,000 or 1,100 mile race down the peninsula. So this is a little bit of a curveball for us, and we got to decide on our strategy of how we're going to race. Once you're below San Felipe, guess what? More whoops. Old Portecitas Road. Woohoo! This can be fun. 30 miles of straight whoops before we get onto the pavement. Now the Black Doom is invading the Baja, and I think inevitably they're going to be paving a lot of the roads that we race on, which is originally how the Baja 1000 started. They raced on what is now Highway 1. So don't be surprised to see more pavement between Portecitas or San Felipe area and Gonzaga Bay. Actually, it's about 48 miles long now, and that's another speed zone where you have to get down to 60 miles an hour and maintain that until you get off into the dirt just at Gonzaga, because not only is it a safety issue, but I tell you, racing on the pavement in the old days was a scary thing. Getting back on the dirt, you can get on the gas as you head to Coco's Corner, which is really a landmark for the Baja 1000. Coco, who now has had both of his legs removed due to diabetes, is just a great character. You can stop in, you can have any kind of soda you want. I say don't drink and drive, so be careful down there, and that's going to lead you right into the Calamaway Wash or Frog Canyon. Now this spot, a lot of people discount this. They look at the area and they think, oh, it's a small area, maybe I don't even need to pre-run, or I've been through there before. I can tell you, for a short amount of time in there, it looks like a marsh. So there's been a lot of rain on the Baja Peninsula, as we talked about, so you might want to think about how you're going to set up your race plans as it pertains to water, starting off right here in Calamaway Wash. Just beyond that, race mile 350 and El Crucero. It's a name of a place, but it's not a town. It's the place where we first come up alongside Highway 1. Traditionally, there's a number of pits here, and a lot of people have a chase truck in this area. So El Crucero, race mile 350, look for a lot of pitting in this spot. Leaving El Crucero starts another new section as we head into the Bahia de Los Angeles area, and the last bit of dirt you see after El Crucero, great elephant trees, great vegetation. If you get a chance to stop and check them out, they're just kind of twisted and absolutely beautiful. You're going to jump on the LA Bay pavement, which is frustrating once again as you get into the speed zone, but you'll head into LA Bay, and it's a great little place. I love the sunrise. It's probably my most spectacular thing that I love on the Baja is watching the sunrise in LA Bay. So if you get a chance, be sure and do that. Headed south traditionally is just really fast graded roads, but I caution you, this is where the rain damage really has started coming in. There's a lot of big holes. A few years back, actually Travis Pastrana had a big accident out in this area. So you got to really watch yourself, as you do around the whole Baja 1000. You have to go and look for yourself before you can race in these sections. And even when you think you can go fast, you should be checking up and paying attention to what's going on. Headed south though, these roads, like I said, they're beautiful, but right now they're torn up. There are huge crevices in the road. So you guys really be careful. Think about what you're doing as you head down to San Rafael Fish Camp. If you get a second, right when the race course comes out along the Cia Cortez, if you get a chance to go in and say hi to Poncho and his crew over there, bring them a present from LA Bay. We always do on our bikes or whatever. We pack something in the backpack and take it to him. Fruits, vegetables, cooking spices, whatever. I mean, he likes the other stuff too, like cigarettes and such, but we prefer the healthier stuff for him. Now he's getting a little bit older. So moving farther south, you're going to turn right on the race course down near the San Francisco Junction, which again is more beautiful Baja, but we're going to miss some of it because we're headed right towards El Arco. And this is where another change in the race course comes up. I haven't seen this section myself as it is marked for the race course, but I believe we're going more into El Arco instead of making the traditional left turn down towards the Santa Gertrudis Mission Road. And what this does, it takes you to one of my favorite two tracks out of El Arco. It's absolutely amazingly smooth and fun for the most part. Like I said, I haven't seen it, so there could be washouts. Don't count on my word, go on your word. Go figure out where you can go fast. And this brings us in to the Vizcaíno area, where normally we've been driving down the east side of the highway and then jumping on the highway for 45 miles. But SCORE was crafty enough to come up with a new section where we're going to cross the highway just north of Vizcaíno, and we're going to head into part of the biosphere. And when I say biosphere, it's a protected area where they're not building more roads, but roads that exist are okay to go on. And I can tell you, I've been out there recently on some of the two tracks. Wow, it is amazing. Between the back of Vizcaíno and the Abriojos Road, some of the most spectacular two-track, old-school Baja stuff I've seen in a long time. Again, I haven't seen the exact marked course, but I think it's really going to be a great place. Watch out for the big sand drifts, because the wind blows in there quite a bit, and there's all of a sudden big rolling mounds that you may not expect. And I can tell you this, for safety, there is a giant washout before you get to the Abriojos Road. Don't get all comfortable cruising along in your pre-runner, because all of a sudden there's big ditches ahead. As you cross the Abriojos Road, this is going to take you into a section that I think SCORE has never run on. We went in there a few years ago on our dirt bikes and I absolutely loved it. We call it the San Ignacio Canyon. It's tough though, I guarantee you this. It is not a super hard navigation, but it has hills, it has rocks, it has holes, and it has hill climbs. And there are some day-ending boulders right on the edges of the road, and if you misnavigate one of the hill climbs and get off the edge, you're going to be stinking up the entire track. So really think about what you're doing before you go down in there. We're going to pop out of this section at the military checkpoint in San Ignacio. It's kind of fun because the military guys will come over when they see race cars, or our pre-runners, I should say, coming up with the lights on. We recently went through there with 24 motorcycles. They all came running over and we were like, hey, what's up? And high-fived them. And don't panic when you see the military. They're there to do a good job to keep everybody safe. When you're pre-running, if you have time, down near checkpoint 4, check out the San Ignacio Mission. What a fabulous place to be. I mean, the square of San Ignacio, the people there absolutely love off-road racing. Bring stickers, bring posters, take 5 minutes and just download with the people there if you can. It's really a beautiful place. And if you don't get a picture out in front of the San Ignacio Mission, you're really not seeing the Baja. And remember, inside the missions, no hats, no helmets, and no flash photography. As you head south, the Black Doom has spread its tentacles just a little bit more as we head out towards San Juanico, also known as Scorpion Bay to the surfers. But we're not going the traditional route that we have used a lot of times. We actually used the same route in 2010, where we're going to make a left about 25 miles outside of town and head out into an area known as Patrocinio, if I'm saying that absolutely correct. I'm not totally sure. But it is a two-track area that starts with good roads and just keeps going downhill and downhill and downhill from there. As you pass through different ranches, the road becomes less and less maintained. So you really got to be careful. We were out there recently and came to a 4-foot deep, 200-yard wide water crossing. And after being out on this section for 30 miles, we had to go back. And so you just got to really watch what's going on. There's been a lot of moving water with the recent Hurricane Paul. So this area of the Baja really is changing quite a bit, but also it is so beautiful and so green as you move further south. As you get out of the Patrocinio area and get across where these water crossings may or may not be, you're going to head through Rancho Correnta, which traditionally has a silty area, and the ranchers there are pretty cool. You got to kind of check in, say hi, and just kind of get through their gates. Remember, if you come to a shut gate, it's your job to open it, go through without running over parts of the gate or fence, and put it back up. The fences and gates are there for a reason, to keep the livestock on one side of the property or on the right side of the fences. You leaving it open causes problems for all off-roaders, not just for the Baja 1000, but for people that enjoy the Baja year-round. Continue further south. You're going to get on bigger two-track roads. You're going to go through some areas leading into San Juanico where there's great people, and Cataje is a cool place. Take it easy on the main stretch of town because the race course is literally the only road in town. San Juanico, Scorpion Bay. If you surf or you love the ocean, this is a great place to get gas. There's a couple different options for Pemex there out of barrels or jugs. It's pretty consistent, so if you need to get fuel there, I think that you can. No cell service still in town, but you can find Wi-Fi if you're crafty enough to get into the right location. But if you get a chance to go down and check out the points, I think it's worth the time to go park the car, have a soda, a water, and a snack. It's just absolutely beautiful. Then you're going to head down the pavement once again for a short while as you turn off onto what is traditionally the road in from La Purísima. So you'll head down on the pavement around one of the big estuaries, or where the waters come in, and you're going to turn off onto a fast grader road. Watch out for washouts here. I haven't been there since Hurricane Paul was there. I was just there about a week ago, but Hurricane Paul could have changed the area. And this is going to take you into La Purísima, a quiet village, very cool area. There are tons of people, tons of kids. Take it easy. Posters and stickers are cool, but watch out if you're in a buggy or open wheel vehicle, they'll run right out next to the car. So you gotta really be careful when you're taking off, and you gotta check out the Close Encounters Mountain. Just to the north, as you're going through La Purísima, there is just an amazing mesa that you can check out. If you can stop and get a picture, it's pretty cool. And also, there's a waterway from the 1800s that runs directly alongside the race course between La Purísima and San Isidro. So it's some cool little features to check out. Once you leave the La Purísima San Isidro area, you're going to head over into what I call the crossover road. And this is a rocky mountain section in the Commandeau Mountains. And there's a big climb, not too bad, but you got to remember that this area is full of washouts, especially towards the end as you get towards checkpoint 5, which is race mile 785. You're going to make a hard right turn there. Now, I'm sure you can tell by the map, but you're just about 3 miles from Highway 1, so this is a good place for pre-runners or people to have access. Be careful of traffic, but this is a good place to see your crew. When you make the 90-degree right at checkpoint 5, you're headed down into the silt bed area. Traditionally, in 2007, it was really bad. Trucks stuck all over the place, just brutal on people. The people of Loreto, the government there, and Baja Sur so badly want to have the race course go through this area that they went out and excavated on the side of the race course and pulled up gravel and put it onto the race course, and it really is nice. I was down there recently before Hurricane Paul, and it looked like, I mean, almost like a gravel road, so we'll see if it holds up. Now beyond that, you're gonna get into the mountain section, which is really tough. I skipped it on my motor ride and on my reconnaissance of the Baja Peninsula because there's been so much water damage. Before Hurricane Paul, there was 20 inches of rain in the Loreto area. Now, if you've seen the recent pictures of the rivers, both near San Javier and up towards Mulegé, you know there's more water damage. Be really cautious, really careful, and give yourself a little bit of time. If you're pre-running from San Ignacio to Loreto and you're trying to do that in one day, which is probably fine, you gotta give yourself some time at the end. Don't think, oh, it's only 25 miles, it's only gonna take me half an hour. Not true. It's going to take you a couple hours to get through this section, in my opinion. Everybody has their own style. But the city of Loreto, very welcoming. I think it's a beautiful place along the Sea of Cortez. If you have time to check it out, you got to stop in, smell the flowers, just enjoy the people. And it's really the first big city that you're going to see on the Baja Peninsula since you left Ensenada. Yes, you'll see San Felipe, but that's more of a sleepy village, as is San Ignacio. This is the first real town with some infrastructure if you want to get out, stretch your legs, and see some of the culture. I've seen some recent photos from the Loreto area and where we head out on the race course to the west up into the San Javier Mission area. There's a lot of water damage. The highways are washed out. The rivers have been blasting through there. When we leave Loreto, we actually go up the wash, so I'm not sure what kind of damage to expect in that 8 miles, but be real careful. I can tell you though, the San Javier Mission has been there since 1699. That's right, over 300 years. And I promise it's going to be there when you get there. I don't know what the road's going to be like to get there, but it is an amazing place. This is another great place along the peninsula to stop. It's the first place where they used windows, glass pane and wood windows on all of North America, windows shipped over from Spain and brought up to this mission. So if you get a chance, check it out. Beyond that, now in 2008, if I'm not mistaken, the water crossings were insane. I think we're going to see some more of that this time around. I was recently up in this area and most of the riverbeds were dry, but now that we've had another hurricane in the area, I suspect we're going to see a bit more water damage and a little bit trickier to get through there, but you never know because sometimes it hits hard in one spot and sometimes it doesn't hit at all in another spot. And the other thing is the locals have to use these roads every single day, as I've talked about, so they're really good at maintaining them. And if you look around really carefully when you're pre-running, some of the things that you look at Most of these roads are put together by hand or maintained by hand tools. They're out there shoveling the holes, moving the rocks. So think about that when you're roosting through the roads they use every day. As you move through, you're going to get to Santo Domingo, and this is kind of the gateway to the fog, as they like to say. You're going to head out into the area of Insurgentes and Constitution, and it's a beautiful farming community, but the water damage there is going to be extensive. And actually, I heard recently when SCORE went through to look at some of the race course that a lot of it was really tricky to get through because of the huge puddles and standing water. The other thing the standing water brings is flies and bugs, and you got to be careful not to get them on your sandwich because they spread bacteria. 5 of 7 of my crew, all experienced Baja vets, got sick 2 trips ago. So you guys be careful when you're eating your food out exposed in the nature setting, so to speak. Getting through Constitution and Insurgentes, a little tricky because there are some turns up there, but there are some beautiful runs on 2-track, just absolutely spectacular. Couple road crossings, and when you get across a second highway crossing, or actually the 3rd highway crossing in the area, because right at Santo Domingo there's one as well, you're going to get into the Constitution whoops. And this is an area that the solo bike guys, I've talked about it before, this is a very tough area because you've been riding the peninsula, you're coming up on 1,000 miles, and all of a sudden you have like these 35 miles of whoops that are really brutal. And there's no lines around them because there's cactus everywhere. So it's really like 1-2 track through all these whoops. And once you get through there, you can, for me, I'm like, okay, we made it through here. Now we got to get to the finish line. But be super cautious. There's some tricky whoops, some tricky turns in there, but also some beautiful places along the mangroves. As you head further south, you're going to head into Santa Rita, where traditionally some of the silt beds start. We've been through some of these areas recently. There's not as much silt, but there's definitely silt already developing. But one thing there is from all the water running is huge rain ruts you don't expect. I was in my buggy a couple weeks ago and actually got surprised by one. So it can happen to anybody, it can happen to you, it can happen to me, so just be really smart when you're cruising through these areas. But once you get through this traditional silt bed area, now you're going to start running along the Pacific Ocean. You'll get closer and closer to it. Now there are some very straight sections. Beware of the washouts. The shale rock section, no fun for bikes. We rode our bikes through there recently, and it just, oh man, it's brutal. And watch out for the flat tires on the bikes, of course. But when you get down near Punta Conejo, it's a traditional surfing spot for surfers. A lot of times we see sunset here on the Pacific Ocean before we head up into La Paz. And you're going to head through some small towns on the way to La Paz, so when you're pre-running, be conscious of that. Think about where you're going. People are using these roads to go back and forth, whether they're going down to their pongas to fish, or they're going out hunting, or whatever. I mean, these roads are really busy out here. And towards the end of the race, it's kind of fun because it gets tricky. You're going to climb up the hills, and it's going to get into some real tight switchbacks. There's going to be a lot of erosion, rain ruts, and it's really tight 2-track. Sometimes you're really in under the trees, and in a trophy truck, that's a little bit exciting at times because you're never sure if you're going to fit. You guys, of course, I think the fans all over the Baja love the race, but you got to watch out for those errant fans that have been out there all day, possibly having a couple drinks and possible booby traps. You just got to watch out for that kind of stuff. And if you do find a booby trap, report it to SCORE, or you can, if you're pre-running, you might want to clear some of the dangerous stuff out of the race course if it's something you can do safely. And coming down into La Paz, it's kind of a trick. If you get there in the dark, you see all the lights of La Paz, and even if you get there in the daylight, you're up on the plateau and you're like, we're almost there. Guess what? You still got to go down the steps and then through the whoops. The steps, everybody talks about them, and I wish I could tell you that they were 20 miles of ridges and steps down the mountain, but it's only a couple miles. But it's a cool zone that everybody's been talking about for years. Of course, the locals there in La Paz and in Baja Sur race both ways on it. We'll be racing down the steps and into some of the most vicious whoops you're going to see on this race course. Be really careful because it gets brutal right before it gets good. And then, as it seems like is tradition in a lot of towns, when you race into town, it seems like we're racing in through a dump, and that's true here. We're going to race down the mountain into El Centenario, which is the small town just north of La Paz on Highway 1. And just be careful not to pick something up in the dump, a nail or something like that, as you're racing through to the finish line, because you got to remember, it's about 8 miles of pavement once you get through all the dirt. And really, you turn right onto the pavement, you get that feeling, that euphoria of completing the Baja 1000. Again, it's not done, but when you have that moment, take it in, breathe it in, whether you're in first place, third place, fifth place, 10th place, or just making it under the time limit. The accomplishment of finishing the Baja 1000, a peninsula run, is something not to be taken lightly, and there's not a lot of people in this world that can say they've done it. You'll drive down into the Whale's Tail area, make a left to the finish line, and I can tell you, just getting there is an emotional thing. The last time I was there, we were just barely inside the top 20 in trophy truck, and it still overwhelms you to think of all the people and all support, all the sponsors, and what it took to get to this point. Like I said, whether you win or you just finish, enjoy it, because it's something that a lot of people will never have the chance or opportunity to comprehend. Now you've seen our fun little preview here of the 45th annual SCORE Tecate Baja 1000. It's my pleasure to give you the information that I have, but remember, use your head and think about what you're doing. And when you're starting to think about this peninsula run, and when you're down in La Paz, take some time in the beautiful Baja Sur, whether it's La Paz or the East Cape or Cabo San Lucas or Todos Santos. What an amazing part of the world. So green, it looks like a jungle right now. And just go out and enjoy the people and the place while you're there. And one thing I caution you about, there's people out there that race these races and they turn right around and they drive home. I want to caution you. Driving up the peninsula on the pavement is one of the most dangerous parts of the race. You got to really think about what you're doing. You shouldn't speed. You should run your headlights at night. And at night, I mean, there's livestock, there's a lot of things to deal with, there's other people that are tired on the road. I strongly suggest taking a couple days to get back up the peninsula when you do start your drive back, whether it's yourself or your crew. But like I said, enjoy Baja Sur, enjoy the Baja, and have fun at the Baja 1000, because it's a lifetime experience every time.